I've got less than 2 weeks to make a car that is an empty rolling shell work. This is a Chevrolet 454 cubic inch, 7.4 liter big block. And this is what we are putting into our Nissan to make the ultimate burnout car. We're gonna do it, I hope. But either way, we are taking every precaution to try to cover every possible basis that it is going to be able to happen. Turns out, we ran into some problems. We're nearing like the 5-day mark. It's gonna be a struggle, but we're gonna get there. All right, we are making some progress on staying cool. Ignore the hair, I've been welding a little bit. But where we're at with our headers here, they don't fit. Even with that amount of strut tower removed, they still won't fit. So in trying to come up with a solution of modifying one pipe, cutting it out, we had more in the way. So I'm going to just get a bunch of pipe, and we're going to something like that on each side. Because the car is stupid, let's just keep on going with it. But as you can tell, there's a lot of pipe to try to get that to there. So we're going to have a Summit Racing run in the morning to pick up pipe, because that's the quickest way for me to get it. I've not cut this one down just yet, but I predict the exact same issue. So I had planned on putting in an additional water tank, but I didn't order enough fittings. And I could order more fittings, but I also feel like at our power level, with this size radiator and the cooling fans that are still aren't here but should be soon, we'll be okay. We are very short on space. Who would have thought? I need to pull measurement because I may have some issue with cooling fans. I still need an alternator pulley. And then we have a fitting that comes off the center of this. It's going to get tight. Now, I said only alternator. We're running an electric power steering pump. The reason we're doing that is one of the biggest problems with overheating and high RPM is people will sling a belt. They lose their cooling fans and they lose their water pump. By running an electric water pump, we have a big alternator. If we lose the belt, we're still going to have a very large battery. That basically it will run until, because we'll be fuel injection on this, until the computers turn off. Like it kind of is a built-in dummy failsafe. This is a massive Frostbite radiator. Frostbite, again, under the Holley brand. Holley got this out to me. We just kind of pulled some measurements. And just in case you're wondering, a Mustang radiator is not a direct drop-in to a 300ZX with a big block. You do need to do a little bit of modification. Namely, one is the drain cock is on the side, which is weird. So I'm going to have to block that off, because otherwise it goes into the frame rail. One other thing we'll do once I kind of confirm the last few measurements that were good there is I'm going to cut these down a little bit, and we're going to weld some AN fittings on there, like so. We got that welded on, and we got our upper thermostat housing with its fitting welded on. I hate welding to old cast. It is never pretty. I baked it as much as we could. We sandbled it, did everything we could to give a good surface, and well, hopefully it don't leak. I am running a thermostat. Now, traditionally what you'll see on a big block is a bypass from here to bypass the thermostat. Going off of the suggestion of Grimes, who's built a tremendous number of these in race application, is you can delete that if you put a couple extra bypass holes in the thermostat. That is what we have. So I'm going to drink a little bit of water, some liquid IV, because I need the hydration, and we'll fit a couple more things, and then hopefully maybe start welding up radiator mounts and make a run to a parts store. You know, the big parts store where they're going to have a bunch of pipe. And then I just also need to look through everything, so hopefully I can make one trip and get more of what we need. There's a lot to do and no time to do it. Well, that's a thing. It is definitely not my best work, but for time constraints and materials on hand, and it just being my two hands to try to hold everything as I'm making it, I'm pretty happy. They're kind of pointed roughly the right angle up. I was really fighting on this side, so if you're ever in a pinch, I just kind of welded this plate to the chassis to try to help hold the pipe, and that worked fairly well. But this one's coming forward a little bit where that one points straight out. I'm going to say that's for driver's comfort. Definitely nothing to do with the fact that I'm was struggling trying to get things kind of in position alone. That was on purpose to get the noise away from me. Yes. That's what we're going to go with. Now, if you're very astute looking at this, you'll notice I have 2-inch pipe going into 2 1/8 pipe, which technically would be a performance restriction, but there really just is not room for 2-inch pipe, or 2 1/8 inch, the big pipe. There's not room for it down there. I couldn't really get something to work. Also, I could not get enough bends in time. Like, it just couldn't have happened. So in this morning's summit run, I picked up one of these Schoenfeld Headers. They make a really cool kit where you get 36 feet of pipe in all kinds of random bends, and this is the leftover. Sometimes you'll look at that snaggle. You don't know what you're going to use it for, but you maybe can cut some of the angles out of it. The only downside with this kit is you do not know the version of bends you're going to get. I don't know if the guys see who drinks the most margaritas at lunch and come up with the fun bend packages or what. There's some crazy bends you sometimes get out of it. But it was enough for us to kind of work and modify our headers that Holley sent to us. Our tractor pull headers that would normally go straight up. They're now kicked out to the side. I also have some 4-inch 45s, but the problem is if I put them on, I'm actually wider than the lift, and I'd have to pull him for towing because it would make Earl a wide load. Earl's a lot of dumb things, but making it a wide load is something we just don't need to also add into all of our problems. So I may just keep this on it or do 90s that point straight down. For tuning, I'll do a slip-on that will tighten up so that way I'll have an extension. When you have this short of a pipe, if you remember in one of Cletus's videos when they were doing the big block Crown Vic, you get what's called reversion. You have exhaust comes out and it creates a small vacuum and it pulls air in, and when you have a sensor this close to open atmosphere, it's going to artificially read too much oxygen. So you can't do that. You need to have a long enough pipe to shield that sensor. So next up, we're going to yank our exhaust back off, and I'm going to fully weld it. We're going to clean up some of these inserts and edges. It's ugly. It's something I'll say I'll fix later. And it's going to stay like this as long as this engine's an Earl, if we're being honest. You know, I'm sure you've got plenty of projects you said you're going to get and make better later, and you never do. So until the headers fall off, that's how they're going to stay. Well, we are wrapping up today. I'm kind of at the point where I'm out of parts and need to swing by the hardware store and pick up some bolts and material, but we made some good progress. I am tired. There's a lot to go, but we're not going to stop going for it. We're going to do our best, and we're not going to fail Earl. Finally, he's going to get to actually do something aside from looking ridiculous. I will say, not my best welding and pipe work. The good news is no one's going to see it except for all of you, anyone at Cletus and Cars or watching the pay-per-view. Oh well, maybe I'll wrap it and cover it up, so then no one sees it. And it's like it never happened. The first time I'm picking up the camera is actually the end of the day, and it's not really the end of the day I wanted. I'm having to kind of slow down. You can't really tell right now, but it's storming pretty heavily outside, and we are getting a tremendous amount of close lightning strikes. And I don't want to lose any of my welding equipment, because if I lost it now, I would be in a whole lot of trouble. So I called up someone that has some parts I need. So guess what? We're running for parts again. We're doing that a whole lot. Also got a phone call that we're going to get a drive shaft in the morning, along with some more overnight parts. So there's been a lot of progress. We'll try to get you caught up. One thing I'm tripping over metal that's on the ground. I have got breather fittings welded in to our valve cover, so they're going to be set and good to go. We started priming the engine, and I realized my engine oil primer, well, it was just a rudimentary thing. It will oil the bottom, but isn't going to get oil to the top end. So we were able to make 50 PSI instantly, but I'm picking up that tool that will let me get oil to the top of the motor, know everything's good, and drop a distributor in. But one thing, since we couldn't get cool, I figured we'd get floored. We're working on sealing up that firewall. That's our first plate there. And let me come around to the side here. And we have most of our hole covered up. Now, there's some seams. The floor pan is incredibly irregular. It's hard to match perfectly, even with templates back and forth. So, at the end of the day, most racing organizations. Now, I don't know, I've not seen safety rules. I'm just kind of going ahead and building it how I feel safe. Trying to keep all the fire out, and if fluids come loose, out. And a good way to do that when you're down to just like small little air gaps is you can get actual duct tape, not duct tape, the foil metal back tape, and you can fill small air gaps with that, and that generally works very well, and most race organizations are cool with it. So the sides welded in. I have got a flat floor kind of put together because I'm not using any of the factory brake system. The booster deletes are pretty expensive, and for $170, I'm able to get a Willwood floor pedal and master cylinder assembly. Bleeding will be a little tricky, but that's fine because we don't want to spend too much more money on this car. We're way over budget. But we've got our sides welded in on both sides, and that center section will actually bolt down and be removable, and we're down to just one more piece right there to cut and modify. So we're making progress. We'll be back at it tomorrow. I will probably wrap this episode and get it over to Dwayne pretty quick and early, where we'll finish up the floors, and then the next one will be a lot. That's when we're finally going to get cool, and we will get brakes in. I believe I've got James able to start coming up in the evening time. From now to Bristol's 3 days. Again, I don't know how these episodes are going to come out. You may know by the time you're seeing this if we made it or not. There is a contingency plan. I don't like contingency plans, but I want to get out to Bristol. I want to do burnouts, and I want to see all of you. So if it's not Earl, it's got to be something that, you know, we can risk putting in the wall and not be totally heartbroken of. I really don't want to. No, it's not that. I really like that car. We're not going to break it. So as you can tell, we're tired. We're getting through a build. A lot of people have teams. It's me and you guys. We're going to get this done. Welcome to Earl's bottom side. We have been busy, ran and picked up some parts, and then we had some parts overnighted that we picked up, and I just kind of, honestly, I was transferring footage from the last episode and just got to work and got a lot of little things done, so let's get you guys caught up. So, if we actually look, I don't know if we paid enough attention to how good I actually have that engine and transmission as far as clearance to the bottom. We are in a really good spot with that. One thing I noticed is I've got to find my other sway bar mount, as weird as it sounds. Sway bars are important when you do your burnout competition. So, come a little bit further back, we have that starter mounted. What is crazy, I didn't realize, so the MSD Dynaforce, I knew it was a powerful starter, and I said 3 horsepower before. It's 3.4 horsepower and comes with a dyno sheet. That's insane, but then again, a big high compression big block, it's going to need some of that. Then we've got our torque converter is now married and bolted to our transmission, and you'll notice I've got some shims. Technically, you only need to use 3 bolts when you're doing a Chevy starter, but because my flywheel was double drilled, as was my torque converter, I was able to use 6 bolts. I just feel better about that. My little 3-liter Toyotas use 6 bolts that are actually bigger than 7/16. So this is going to make more torque and be a little more violent in some ways, so let's do it all. You also need to be very careful, make sure you have enough of your torque converter sitting in your crankshaft and you're not pulled too far out from your pump, so you're not going to damage things there. So we got that in, but what's really excited is we got shafted. Our guys at Driveline Service of Atlanta, North Atlanta, the guys have done another amazing quick turnaround where I send them some pictures and say, please help. And they do. We have got ourselves a 3-inch aluminum shaft, billet ends, and it is ready for all the abuse we can throw at it. I still got a little bit more floor patching to go. When we go wiring, we will need to connect our trans brake solenoid, because if you're running a trans brake, when you put it in reverse, nothing is there. It needs to have power applied here in order to actually engage reverse. And the reason that happens is when you're engaging a trans brake, the reason the transmission doesn't turn is it is engaged in a forward gear and it locks the reverse band down. So you can't move, the transmission just cannot move. So that's all done. And we've done some really exciting things up top. Well, let's see. Well, you can just see the head. You can't quite see it. I got the distributor down, but let me lower Earl because we've hit some trouble. We've hit some problems where we're trying to figure out solutions for our timetable. And it was kind of discouraging. It was like hit after hit. And I will tell you, if you're ever in a project where you're trying to fight a tight timetable and you're striking out in just about every step, give yourself a visual win. And that's what I did. I needed motivation, so I gave myself a big visual win that I'm excited to share with you as soon as I can lower the car down. Look at that. It's so close, and we are so far away. But I had to see it. We got Earl's nose back on, and kind of fitted how it should be, but I'm sure the elephant in the room, that's just an air scoop with air filters, but it looks amazing. We are running Holley's Terminator Twin Sniper 2x4 throttle body fuel injection setup, where you run 2 of the snipers, and it is controlled by their much more powerful Terminator computer. So when you're having power adders and just big crazy setups, this works incredibly well. Say a burnout car, big block powered tunnel ram 300Z. It is the perfect option for us. Also, some of the other things we got taken care of is sitting back there. We have our distributor dropped in. That's our dual sync, and I just kind of ran into some of the wiring and computer happiness things and just working my way through all of that. But the one thing that continues to fight in the front of this car would be right there, and that's our radiator. You need to have the biggest possible amount of water and cooling possible if you're doing a burnout car. It needs to be just way as overkill as possible, and the radiator we got is going to match really well. But if I drop it down as low as I really would like it to be, my coolant lines hit where the suspension lives, and there's really nowhere else for it to try to go. There's tons of room in the front. It's just trying to find the right combination of end tanks and cores and fans. Fans are still not here, which are kind of crucial for fitting everything, and I still really need that alternator to show up. So we're kind of hung on a couple parts, and then one other unexpected problem that I am trying to find. The parts exist, I just can't quite get them quick enough, is our Holley throttle bodies. Now, this is apparently just a very common thing with the Holleys, their snipers. They have, or even a carburetor, they have bigger fuel floats on each side, so Edelbrock intends you to kind of mount your carburetors in line, but you can't do that with these. They get in the way, so you need to get some 90-degree turning adapters, and it's just trying to get them in time. Because from now, I don't know from when you're seeing this, but I have just under 2 days. And I still have brakes, seats, fuel plumbing, finding that, getting a radiator, wiring. It's getting real daunting, but we're still pushing as hard as we possibly can for Bristol. I have contingency plans. I don't like contingency plans, but we have them because this has to make it somehow. I'm not sure the how, but we'll try to stay positive. You know, a PMA can get you pretty far. I feel like this is a good kind of cap. We've got the exhaust in, we've got floors made, we've got drive shafts in. A lot of things are connected and getting us a lot closer. I was hoping to have the cooling system resolved. Not this time, next episode. But again, I have to extend a huge thank you to these guys here, Holley. They are supporting Earl an unbelievable way. They support the Lexus project. They support a ton of our projects, and they support probably almost all of your favorite creators. If you're in the automotive space, Holley is amazing for standing behind the automotive YouTubers, the guys that call up and say, hey, I want to try to shove a big block in the 300ZX in less than a week. They have done everything we can possibly do to get every part we could see and figure out. And they're absolutely amazing. They have something for your car. If you go to their website and click brands, the amount of wheels, exhaust products, gauges, tuners, EFI stuff, hard parts, restoration parts, brake parts, engine parts, they have just, again, an insane amount under their umbrella, and they support us. Hopefully we can make this deadline. If not, I will be at Holley LS Fest and at Holley Mo Party. The Mo Party car is easy to figure out. Any guesses on who's going to be at LS Fest? Comment below. Who do you think is going to be there, and what do you think I'm going to be doing? Because it's actually something really cool and special that I'm going to hopefully be announcing on our Instagram shortly, and I will announce it in the community pages here as well. We'll be making videos on. But anyway, I need to quit talking because I've got to get on the computer and try to find some parts and figure some stuff out. So, here's to trying to make Bristol. We're so far away, but we're not giving up. We're gonna go down fighting and swinging and do everything we can. But appreciate you guys as always hanging out and watching the misadventures of Jared and his questionable choices. But anyway, I'm reminding you guys to always make questionable choices, and it may take more than 9 days to fit a big block in a 300Z, but I'm too stupid to know the difference. We'll see you.